Well, hello, all of you from Alaska that are dialing in. My name is Patrik Schmidle. I'm the founder and CEO of CARI Health, and the problem that we're solving is medication adherence. About 10 years ago, a close family member of mine struggled with opioids, and they just couldn't stop, no matter how hard they tried. And similarly, there are millions of Americans and thousands of Alaskans that are caught in this vicious cycle of addiction. Opioid addiction specifically, that's difficult to escape. And it's so difficult that according to the latest statistics, 136 Americans die every single day due to an opioid overdose. That's every single day. Fortunately, my loved one was eventually able to stop using opioids and didn't become one of the victims. But nonetheless, it was such a traumatic experience for our family that it inspired me to do something about this problem. And since our family experienced this firsthand, the crisis, this opioid crisis, has escalated even further. And it's primarily due to the rise of illicit fentanyl. There are few options once someone is addicted to illicit fentanyl, and methadone treatment is one of them. Unfortunately, there are two major problems with this otherwise safe and efficacious medication. And so methadone is used to treat opioid addiction and is seen as one of the few true solutions for somebody that is hooked on fentanyl. But there are two problems. One, it takes too long to get to a therapeutic dose. And two, once patients do reach a therapeutic dose, they then have to visit a clinic every day to prove compliance. Yes, that's every day. So this combination causes high dropout rates, patients going back to using fentanyl, overdosing, landing in the ER, with total cost of care expenses spiraling out of control. And mind you, these are all patients that they decided that they wanted to leave this cycle of addiction to have a better life, but it's just so difficult to stay in treatment that they keep getting pulled back. So to solve this problem and help patients escape from this vicious cycle, we've invented a novel, innovative, and highly scalable solution that you see here in front of you. We invented a wearable quarter-size monitor that uses a patent-pending it's an electrochemical assay that is used to help clinicians with their dosing and titration decisions, so they can get patients to a therapeutic dose as quickly as possible, but also safely. And then once they're at the therapeutic dose, they can then prove compliance remotely. As you can see, this would be life-changing for methadone patients and increases the chances that they stay in treatment and escape that vicious cycle of fentanyl addiction. One of the reasons this is a compelling opportunity from a business perspective, sad from a human perspective, but a good business opportunity, is that it's a large market already, and it's going to continue to grow due to the prevalence of fentanyl, illicit fentanyl, that is. Based on our reimbursement assumptions of $5,000 per patient per year, this is a $5 billion market today, and it's expected to continue to grow. And based on the feedback we've gotten from clinicians as well as from patients, we expect adoption rates to reach 50% eventually. And each 1% of penetration translates to $50 million worth of annual revenues for CARI Health. And just to kind of, if you think about it from a sort of a TAM, SAM, and SOM perspective, so total available market, that's the 16 million patients worldwide. That is the worldwide total available market. The 3 million is the total available market in the US. The 1.5 million is the serviceable available market, so the SAM, and then the 1 million is the serviceable obtainable market, which is the SOM, if you will. So this is 1 million people that would benefit from using our monitor that are already in treatment. So there are several unique aspects about this market, and please feel free to chime in with any questions at any point in time. There are several unique aspects about this market, and because it's sort of at the fringe of the medical system, if you will. And one of the reasons why it's so compelling from a business perspective is that it only takes one distributor to reach 70% of this market. And we happen to have a signed letter of intent with them already to distribute our product once it's in market. But what's unique is that there are 2,000 clinics across the entire United States that are the only clinics that are authorized to administer methadone for somebody that has an opioid use disorder. And if you can think about 2,000 in the entire country, clearly, they're heavily concentrated in urban areas, and anytime somebody is in a rural area, it makes it very difficult to enroll in treatment and then also stay in treatment. So if you look at this from an Alaskan perspective, here's a map of Alaska, and you see 8 dots here with green dots with a star. Those are the 8 locations where there are methadone clinics. So if you live in Alaska and you would like to enroll in methadone treatment, you better live close to one of those locations. If you don't, it's just about impossible, right, to enroll in methadone treatment. And just imagine how life-changing our solution would be for patients if they would only have to go to the clinic once a month versus several times a week which is the requirement today. And I can't even imagine. I've never been to Alaska, but I can only imagine the elements, especially in the wintertime. And to have to show up in a clinic almost every day would be a huge barrier to remaining in treatment. So I'm just going to pause here and see if there's anybody that has any comments or questions.
Oh, thank you. Well, you've certainly characterized the biggest challenge, as you and I were speaking about, but we actually have some really qualified voices on the call right now. So Dr. Alyssa Rozier actually lives in a frontier area in Southeast Alaska, and Alana Habib is, really deeply involved in this question, as she serves all of Alaska in trying to provide substance use disorder services. So if either of you have a question or want to chime in and talk about the difficulty of receiving treatment, it would be awesome.
Sure. Hi, Alana Habib. I'm the State Opioid Treatment Authority for the state. Just started back in July and had worked in opioid misuse and addiction prevention prior for 5 years. It's a huge issue here. We have a very innovative agency, Search in Southeast right now, that's doing a lot of incredible work trying to get more access out there for methadone, but we have just been at a loss for how to, with the regulations at hand and with the lack of interest of starting new OTPs. It's been tough for Alaskans because number one, it's not a very well-known medication, nor is it well accepted, I think, to begin with. So the OTPs that are here have really faced a lot of stigma over the last 3 decades. But with the new, energy towards it from a federal level, from, the state level, I'm seeing just a lot of growth in that area. But yeah, it's a very tough state to serve with such a strongly regulated medication.
Yes, I would imagine that that would be the case, because the problem is experienced by many others, even here in San Diego. There's, if you believe it or not, in the entire county of San Diego, which houses roughly 3 million people, there are only 4 OTPs, and it's pretty incredible. And as you said, the stigma attached to it makes it even worse. So, but from a patient perspective, I just the thought of the frequent clinic visits, even if with the extended take-home policies and that are being more relaxed. And the guidance that SAMHSA is issuing now, the more of the onus is placed on the clinicians, right? And so that puts clinicians in a tough spot because even though the guidelines are more relaxed, they're reluctant to grant a large number of take-homes to patients that they don't deem to be stable. And so there's a lot of friction in the system with regards to expanding access and giving access and providing patients with a solution that has promise, but yet there's so many rules and regulations that make it very difficult to stay in treatment. So I'm going to move on. So one of the things, so I'm glad you're on, Elena or Ilana. So as you know, opioid treatment programs are reimbursed through G codes, which is a bundled reimbursement code, and And depending on the state, the reimbursement levels vary. I don't know what it is for Alaska, but it's anywhere from $6,000 to $10,000 or $11,000 dollars per patient per year. Medicare reimburses, I think, around $12,000 per year. But essentially, there's not enough margin in there for our device to fit in it, right? So for us, we would have to secure a new CPT code that we could get reimbursed against. And clearly, you know, with this patient population, any kind of co-pays or anything that would make it more expensive or difficult, or where they would have to pay any amount of money, would make it a showstopper, right? So clearly, from a reimbursement perspective and a payment perspective, it's going to be a challenge for us to get to get that through. But you know, the value proposition from a business perspective is very high, right? We built a health economic reimbursement model, and it's an economically dominant device, even if we just increase treatment retention rates by a little bit. And so clearly, we have to prove that with first in human studies and our pivotal study, but there's no doubt in my mind and our team's mind that if we can help clinicians titrate patients to a therapeutic dose more quickly, and then also enable remote compliance demonstration with we can make a dent in the treatment retention rates, and as a result, that'll lower the total cost of care, which would be a great benefit to the payer. I'm going to pause here. Any comments or questions on that? Okay. All right. Feel free to chime in at any point in time. So just to kind of give you a sense for the landscape, there are some solutions in terms of monitoring adherence, specifically for methadone. CARI Health is a video verification app. Berkshire Medical is more of I guess a pill box, if you will. Veronetics also uses technology to limit how many, the doses that are available every day and so forth, just to make sure that it's safer for patients to get take homes. But these are all clearly, you still don't know that a patient has actually taken the medication, right? And it certainly doesn't help with titration. And so the standard of care today for titration to understand what the patient's metabolization rate is sort of the standard peak trough analyses. But because of the delay and the frequent blood draws that are required, hours apart, plus the delay of getting the data back, it's used very infrequently. From what I understand, it's typically used when patients are pregnant. And to justify split doses, but other than that, peak trough analyses are typically not done. So the titration strategies are being informed by what clinicians are hearing from patients, and so our solution would be the only one that addresses both personalized dosing as well as remote compliance monitoring. And it's pain-free, it's convenient, and it's continuous, and so similar to how CGM has revolutionized the treatment of diabetics, we are convinced that this could revolutionize and transform the way that methadone patients are treated. I'm just going to pause here for a second. Any questions on this? Okay. So one of the things you might be asking yourself, because I'm guessing a relatively small percentage of the population is in methadone treatment, but there's a much higher percentage of the population that is in treatment for other diseases that also require medication adherence and titration support. So you might be asking yourself, well, if your platform, if your sensor can measure methadone, can it also measure other medications? And the answer is yes. What you see here on the top left here, these are the tiny little microneedles that are at the bottom of the sensor, and that's where our electrochemical assay is coded on, and that assay is what senses medications. And one of the things that differentiates us from other biosensors out there is that it's flexible. So it can detect not just methadone, it can detect other medications as well. And just to give you a sense, we recently completed an accelerator program at Cedars-Sinai, which is a big hospital and healthcare system in LA and sort of the surrounding area of LA. And we spoke to, close to 60 clinicians because Cedars-Sinai itself does not treat methadone patients, but they're interested in our platform for other applications and other disease states. And so there are three clear sort of segments that crystallize as we were speaking to clinicians. One are medications that have a narrow therapeutic window that would benefit from understanding what the metabolization rate is that patients have, so you can inform the titration strategy. Two medications that have very high price points. This is really more payer driven because we're talking about medications that are $10,000, $20,000 a month, and payers want to know, if I'm going to pay for these expensive medications, I want to know patients are actually taking them, right? So those are the cancer medications, for example. And then the third segment, which is a bit of a surprise that popped up, are medications that are used to treat chronic conditions. So metformin is a prime example. It's sort of a first-line medication for diabetic patients, and today there's no sort of ecosystem in place for monitoring or titration strategies for these medications that are they're fairly inexpensive, but used pretty widely. But clinicians, I guess, are having a tough time distinguishing between, okay, is a patient not getting better because the medication that's prescribed is not working, or they're not taking the medication as prescribed. And so it'd be really helpful, and then they have to make a decision based on incomplete information. And often what happens is they start prescribing additional medication, where if they would just take metformin, that would take care of it. And so the same kind of concept came out with statins for cholesterol, and it was kind of a surprise to us. It's a steeper hill to climb because clearly that would have to be an incentive for patients to want to wear a monitor, right? And so insurance companies that we've spoken to, they said they wouldn't be opposed to putting incentives in place, as in, they're not going to charge co-pays if patients wear a monitor, for example. But these are the kinds of medications that popped up in terms of where there's clinical demand. So now we're in the process of figuring out, okay, is it feasible technically, and then is it feasible, viable commercially? We've done a lot of that work for methadone, but not yet for other medications. Okay. Just to kind of give you a sense for where we've been and where we are and where we're going. So we've been very fortunate so far. We've hit a lot of milestones thanks to funding from non-dilutive grants through the NIH and the NSF, but also from angel funds. And we're certainly proud of some of the funds that invest in us. One of them only invests in opportunities that have a 30x return for a potential return for investments. So we consider these angel funds to be smart angel money. So we're proud that they're part of our ecosystem. We're in the process of raising a round right now to support the first-in-human studies, which are planned for later this year, as you can see here on the bottom. And assuming that we get favorable results in those first-in-human studies, that'll then be followed by a Series A, which will get us through the next inflection point, which is regulatory clearance. Okay. We also have received pretty wide support in terms of clinical and scientific validation. We just formally announced our advisory board, and as you can see, some pretty prestigious names and logos on our advisory board, including the former White House General Counsel of the National Drug Policy, Rob Kent. I also want to highlight Brenda Davis, who's here right in the middle. She's been a methadone patient for the last 27 years, and so she fully understands how life-changing this could be. She's a mom, she's a grandma, she has a job, so she knows how difficult it is to hold down a job, rebuild your life, and also take care of your family while still also being in recovery. And so So she's been great, a great addition to our board because we want to make sure this is a patient-centric solution that helps patients, not necessarily a policing solution, if you will. The other thing I want to highlight is that the market's telling us that there's a real need for our solution, as evidenced by MedStat's signed letter of intent to distribute our product. And then the other member I'd like to highlight is Dr. Sherrick from Community Medical Services. That's an aggregator of opioid treatment programs. They operate about 70 clinics across 10 states. And they're a collaborator with us in one of the grants from the NIH. And they serve about 20,000 patients. So that'll be the first place where we will introduce our solution. A little bit of detail about the round that we're currently raising. It's used to support our first-in-human study. And then basically it gives us 18 months worth of runway and is a clear path to the what we call a fast track to phase 2 grant, which has been awarded by the NIH to us, and which will kick in once we've completed our first-in-human studies. So far, 2 funds have invested. We've got about $1 million soft circled and quite a few people interested in joining the round. Just to give you a sense for the opportunity, we're managing towards 4 inflection points: first-in-human, FDA clearance, cash flow positive, and $100 million plus in revenues. As you can see, and at each one of those points, we'll have exit opportunities. But clearly, the closer we can get to the point on the right here, the more compelling of an exit it would be for everybody that's involved. To enable the solution, we've established a team of experts in medtech and chemistry and engineering, as well as in addiction treatment. And I want to highlight Dr. Foster Carr, who's the third person on the right at the top here. He's also the medical director of a methadone clinic. So we're essentially building a solution that helps him treat his patients better. The other thing I want to highlight is the logos on the slide kind of tell you that we're leaning heavily on people that have done this before primarily in the glucose space. And from a personal perspective, I've been part of lots of businesses that have been sold. I've been part of multiple exits, and so together we have the right team to make this solution happen. And in summary, we've got a high unmet market need that we're trying to address. We have exciting, cutting-edge, patent-pending technology and highly scalable technology, and we have a great team that knows how to execute to make this happen. And what makes it even more compelling for investors and others that are part of our journey is that our solution is life-changing for methadone patients, and so it will have a positive impact on the opioid epidemic, which is a national crisis. And so with that, I'm happy to take any questions that you might have.
First, thank you, Patrik. Thank you so much for that very complete understanding of your technology and your path forward. Thank you very much. If everybody could just, even virtually or online, I would just want to thank you for carrying forward. This is a good time to open this up for questions. Are there any questions right now?
Have you connected with ATOD and any feedback from them on this?
Yes, absolutely. So we attended the last conference. Mark has written a letter of support for several of our grant applications. So he's a huge, Mark Perino, he's a huge supporter of what we're trying to do. And that's how we met Dr. Sherrick and CMS. I have a good relationship with Nick Stavros, who runs CMS, and we've connected to many clinicians and counselors and supporters that were at ATOD. So that conference was because we went to that conference shortly after we pivoted towards methadone because we were focused on another medication before, and essentially first time I talked to Mark, he made me cry because we've been working on this solution in one way or another for so many years, and it's been such a tough road for us, and And basically, the way he responded was that, look, you know, you guys are doing something that is game changing and transformative, and so, you know, it was a long time coming because a lot of people have not really believed, you know, along the way that we're on the right path. So it was good to hear from him. Thank you, yeah, for asking. And then I'm planning on going to the May conference if you're planning on going.
Yeah, I'm just signed up actually. That's big.
Yeah. I'll definitely go. So I'll see you there. We should connect while there.
That's great. Have you worked with CMS? So you've actually worked with CMS with this, because we've got 2 CMS clinics, and we have sort of a broad spectrum of laggards and folks that are going to jump on the bandwagon and do something right away for OTPs. And CMS tends to, you know, they try things elsewhere and then kind of want to bring it up here sometimes. So curious if you've worked with them elsewhere.
And when you talk about CMS, you're not talking about community medical services, right? You're talking about the Center for Medicare and Medicaid, right?
No, I'm talking about community medical services.
Oh, you are? Okay. Yeah. So they've worked with us on a number of grant applications.
Okay.
And so they've basically they're going to support us in recruiting patients from their clinics as we do clinical trials. So
okay.
I wasn't aware that they have clinics in Alaska. So if they do,
yeah, they're 2 of the 8 programs. Yep.
well, that's excellent. They're the most innovative of the bunch, and Dr. Sherrick, who's on our advisory board, he just moved from, he was the chief medical officer and he's now the chief scientific officer. But he's advising us and he's giving us his guidance and feedback. And Dr. Stoller, do you know Dr. Ken Stoller from Johns Hopkins? So he was the chair of the last ATOT conference, and he's also agreed to join our advisory board. He's a key thought leader in the space.
Nice.
But yeah, CMS, they're great. They're very innovative. Nick is a great guy. So yeah, you're fortunate that you have 2 of their clinics where you are.
I have to say, you both are making me very happy, because this is exactly the role that Health Tie is trying to have, is that kind of connector catalyzer. So if you all meet at the ATOG conference and then somehow we manage to get a study site here, Patrik, that would just be thrilling. So this is really exciting. Thank you.
Yeah, there seems to be a number of like newer technological solutions to support adherence. And, you know, I keep thinking about from the states and how can we support agencies in considering that and beginning to kind of venture into that direction with some funding from our federal funding. And so it's exciting to continue to hear about new solutions and new companies to just know what the selection is with, you know, all the competitors and stuff. I recently had a conversation with Sonera through searches, working with Sonera a little bit on asynchronous dosing, which is exciting. So yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, I mean, there are a number of, I have a couple of folks here, right? Sonara is right here. So yeah, it's good that there's movement in the space, because from what I understand, there hasn't been much innovation up until recently. So it's good to see there's some movement there. So.
No, and I would say there's a lot of fear, like as you indicated, you know, there's been a lot of flexibilities, but not all of the OTPs take advantage of it. They're scared to, and even though the evidence shows that people do okay with take homes and all of that. So being able to have more tech to support their confidence, I think, is exciting.
Yeah, and then are you coming across difficulty in getting patients to a therapeutic dose due to the effect that fentanyl is having on patients' high tolerance levels?
Sorry, can you ask that one more time?
Yeah. So one of the things that we're hearing is that because fentanyl has kind of replaced heroin as the drug of choice on the street, patients have such a high tolerance level that they require a higher dose of methadone before they stop feeling withdrawals, and that it takes too long to get to that therapeutic dose of 120 milligrams, and so we're hearing that that's a huge problem for many clinics because patients just don't get to the therapeutic dose, so they drop out before they ever get there. I'm just wondering if you're experiencing the same.
Yeah, I do think that I've heard that from not so much from methadone providers. I haven't connected directly about that recently, but I've definitely heard that from providers prescribing buprenorphine in terms of just being cognizant of the the rules, you know, like the guideline before of you know, start at the lower end and go up, but in reality that's not a good idea, you know, like that doesn't work for a lot of folks because of the fentanyl, and so starting a little bit higher. And so I assume it's the same thing with methadone, and just ensuring that folks don't drop out immediately because they can't handle that. So
Yeah, I mean, and I don't, have you seen that the most recent study from Baymark by any chance? I'll send you, if you send me your email, or maybe Jacqueline, you can
add it to
distribute
you,
it.
yeah.
I'll send you a study that was recently just published by Baymark, 50,000 patients over a number of years, and essentially, you know, they're describing the effect that fentanyl has had on treatment retention rates, and how it's actually superior. The methadone is superior for patients that are addicted to fentanyl to other forms of treatment like Suboxone. So
Absolutely. I mean, I feel like that's so fascinating to kind of see that in the context of fentanyl. I mean, just in general, the efficacy of methadone is much better than buprenorphine. And how do we make it more available for those?
accessible, yeah,
accessible. And I think on that point, I think what I've enjoyed in this role since I've gotten here in July is just being able to have that public health sciencey background to be able to bring that evidence and put it in the spotlight to encourage people to accept this as a normal routine part of treatment.
yeah.
And because I don't think people have that competency sometimes of understanding what the studies are showing and everything, but just systematic reviews just demonstrate that we've got to encourage a little bit more methadone and accessibility to it.
Yeah, it's just there's so much stigma attached to it that and even within the treatment community,
Extreme, even within OTPs,
yeah,
and who's allowed to prescribe and who's allowed to administer it, and
yeah.
I've been shocked at how much stigma there is across just being new to treatment, because coming from the public health lens before, I've been really surprised by just how the significant amount of stigma in a variety of directions there is, and so how do we combat that too? Because people are just jaded. They've just been in this for a long time. They've seen a lot of bad things, and they just kind of shape their experience, their perspective on things.
Yeah. It's a tough one. Are you connected to Stop Stigma Now, the Cy Dembski organization?
Our one of our OTP COOs, Jennifer Suki, she just started an ATOD chapter here, and she is also connected in the Stop Stigma as well. So she's kind of bringing that up here right now.
Okay, great. No, yeah, that's a great organization. Cy has been a supporter, so it's been. And I spoke to Andrew. So yeah, well, it's good.
Great. Yeah,
so it's excellent.
This is really, truly exciting. We've gone over the typical Health Tie time, which is totally fine. I'm excited about the connection. And Alana, you've got your email in the chat. I can also share it with Patrik as well. And I would just encourage a follow-up conversation. And Patrik, I will continue to advocate and champion the work that you're doing. It's really important. So thank you very much. And thank you for presenting today.
Well, thanks for having us, and follow us on LinkedIn, carihealth.com, and that's usually where we post our updates, and we try to be active and share and raise awareness. So appreciate the opportunity, and thanks for organizing and inviting me, Jacqueline. I really appreciate it.
Really welcome, and thank you so much for for coming and for your excellent participation, Alana. It's really nice to have you here and to have your expertise. So thank you. And thank you, Jared. Have a wonderful afternoon and take care, and I'll be in touch with all of you.
Okay.
Thank you.